I don't rest because I don't believe
Yeah.
in God, the
Yeah.
promise, in what I'm doing.
Right. Or that
I
he's going to
don't-
catch you in that resting. Like he'll work when you're not working.
Yeah.
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 Right.
So there's all these whatever reasons we use not to trust, not to rest, not to be confident in what God has promised and said and does in our life.
Right. Hello, and welcome back to Now That'll Preach. My name is Jared Crowley. I'm your host, sitting across from Pastor David Frech, my roommate currently, soon to be best friend.
Yeah, come on. Or not.
Or not, right. Yeah, we'll see how the month goes. But so if you're new to That'll Preach, basically the idea is we take your questions, your topics, your comments, and we throw them at this guy, ask him to preach a little 5-10 minute sermonette with no prep whatsoever. So he has no idea what we're about to talk about, no scriptural references locked and loaded, ready to go. It's all just off the cuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you ready for this one?
Let's go.
Okay. This one's kind of a nice, relaxing one.
Okay, because the last two have been kind of
A little
challenging.
harsh.
Yeah.
So why is rest so important to God?
I think it's important to God because it's important for us. So God doesn't need rest. He is rest. So we all have the example of the creation story, Genesis 1. You know, he created this, created that, created this, created that.
Right.
And then on the seventh day, he ceased from his labors.
Right.
He entered into his rest.
Yeah.
Okay, he was done. It was all good. And he entered into rest. Did he need to do that because he was exhausted? Well, if he's omniscient, omnipotent God,
Right.
no, he's
Right.
not exhausted. It was to model that he built us as finite beings
Yep.
with limitations.
Okay.
And that one of the key components to the cycle of life is seasons of rest, where rest produces refreshment, rest produces renewal, rest produces strength. So if I exert force, I just can't maintain that
Sure.
indomitably.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
can't do it because
right.
of just our physicality.
Yeah, limitations.
I have to rest my muscles. I have
Right,
to rest my body
Yeah.
so that my body can recover and recuperate and re-engage strength, heal, re-engage strength, and then
Sure.
and then re-engage. So rest is important for those reasons. The Bible gives us a few reasons why we don't rest, why we don't enter into rest, and scripturally, entering into rest is entering into His promises, where I quit striving for something and trust what He says. I quit striving to make what He said happen,
Yes.
and I just trust that He said it and
For
He'll
sure.
do it, and I can be confident in that.
Right.
And so it's super important that we understand. So going back to Hebrews 2 says they did not enter, 2, 3, 4, they did not enter into His rest because of unbelief. So unbelief. I don't rest because I don't believe
Yeah.
in God, the
Yeah.
promise, in what I'm doing.
Right. Or that he's going to catch you in that resting. Like he'll work when you're not working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So there's all these whatever reasons we use not to trust, not to rest, not to be confident in what God has promised and said and does in our life.
Right.
Entering His rest is doing what we can do and then giving the rest of it to God. This recognition, all right, I've pushed this as far as I can push this. I can't push this any further. So Lord, if it's going to happen, you have to do it.
Sure.
And just being confident. Just being, okay, it's His.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
I've done my part. He's going to do His.
Yeah.
It's something I can be confident in. So unbelief is one of the reasons. We just don't believe. We just don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe in God. We don't believe in the concept of rest.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
We just don't believe that it's going to be beneficial or
Exactly.
that it's going to be helpful.
Right.
I don't know how you can live any life and not understand the value of rest.
Right. Right.
Because if that was true, we would never sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
If that's true, we would never sit down and watch a television show.
Right. Right.
We would never, just lay out in the sun or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
We just wouldn't do it because there's no value in it.
Yeah.
But we inherently know there's value in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the first reasons we don't, unbelief. Another reason we don't enter into rest is because of performance. Because of, and I think that's built on insecurity.
Yeah, I think so too.
That we get insecure.
Right.
We're insecure about ourselves. We're insecure about our relationship. We're insecure about our job. We're insecure about.
Yeah. Right.
And then it becomes a performance thing.
Right.
If I don't perform,
Right.
they're not going to love me.
Exactly.
If I don't perform,
Yeah.
it's not going to work out. If I
Right.
don't perform, I'm going to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get into a performance mechanism, and we actually, through our performance, undermine it, because we don't walk in the structures that communicate that we're confident, that we're full of expectation, that we believe in what we're doing, and we believe in the value of what we're doing. So those are just a couple of reasons that I think we don't enter into rest.
Right.
And as it relates to why is rest valuable or why is it important, I think it's for the reasons that I just shared. It's recuperation, rejuvenation, refreshment, re-energizing,
Yeah, right.
reviving,
Right.
restoring. So it's
Yeah.
all about getting us back to a healthy place.
Yeah.
So I'll give you one last analogy.
Sure.
I don't lift weights. Back in the day I did, but
Okay.
I don't lift weights.
Yeah.
I do other forms of exercise. But if you are pushing weight, right, and you're pushing either for reps or for power, for muscle building,
Right.
what you're doing is you're using and breaking down your muscle.
Right. Right.
Your muscle is actually being broken down. It's being
Torn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you keep doing that, you keep tearing it, you keep tearing it, you keep tearing it. And you actually do the counter to what you're trying to build. You're trying to build strength, but if you never let your muscles rest,
Right.
it's not possible
Yeah.
to build strength. In fact, you'll get weaker
It's so good.
and you'll do damage.
Right. Right.
But rest then causes the damaged tissue
Right.
to grow back together, and in growing back together, in the rest and the repair, you add more tissue,
Yeah. Right.
which makes you bigger and makes you stronger.
Yeah.
So this is what rest does for us.
Exactly. Right. Right.
When we get tore down and broke down, too many of us are still working,
Yeah.
and we just make it worse.
Right. Or working to recover, which is like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, we just make it worse, and
Right.
and it makes us feel worse, and we
Yeah.
get weaker,
Exactly.
so on and so forth.
Right.
But when I enter into rest, I'm allowing my mind,
Yep.
my spirit, my heart, my body
Yeah.
to recover. And when it does recover, I come back stronger.
Yeah.
I come back healthier.
You put the
I come
pieces back together.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
So this is why rest is important.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, and I think that's a huge. I can sound like I'm dogging on America a lot, and I don't mean to. I'm very thankful for this country, but that's a huge result of capitalism and of America is that your value is tied into what you do, and so the more you work and the more you grind, the more valuable you are as a person.
Yeah, I think it's an unhealthy understanding of meritocracy and capitalism.
Sure.
I think it's an unhealthy
It is,
understanding of it.
yeah.
I believe it's a biblical concept. I believe capitalism is a biblical concept. I believe meritocracy is biblical. You shouldn't get something you don't work for.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's important for us to, the Bible put it very clearly, if you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah. Right.
But that's not true in the world today.
Right.
You don't have to work to eat because somebody's going to feed you, and it's somebody's responsibility to feed you.
Sure.
Well, how are they going to feed you? They're going to work to feed you.
Right.
So why should I make you work for me?
Right. Yeah. Sure.
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 I mean, there's exceptions to that.
Yeah. Right. But in general, yeah.
In general terms.
Right.
So I think that, but to the performance aspect, which is what you're
Yeah.
alluding to,
Right.
is the performance aspect of things is, well, if I'm going to make it to the top, if I'm going to be the best, I got to, I got to work my brains out.
Right.
And then what am I working my brains out for? retirement.
Yeah, right. It's a long period of rest.
So
right?
I'm going to kill myself so that I can,
Right.
and then what happens is
Right.
a lot of people get to that point of retirement. Not everybody, but there are
Yeah,
many
sure.
people that have gotten to that point of retirement, and they don't last.
Yeah,
Because their
right.
body doesn't know how to function under
Exactly.
this new context of life.
Rest. Yeah, right.
And they don't know how to do it. And literally, the physical toil that takes, the mental, the emotional, the relational toll that takes.
Right.
And I'm talking about the obsessive nature of it.
Sure.
Is not worth the price.
It isn't. Yeah.
And God said it.
Right.
And that's why God mandated a day of rest.
Yep.
And
It's that trust. Like, I mean, I think that's just the biggest part of rest is that trust in God, like that you are going to work when I don't work, that I can take this time to just relax and do what you've told me to do, which is to rest, and that you're going to cover me, and I don't have to worry an ounce about it. So,
Once I've done what I'm supposed to do, I can be
Exactly.
confident that God's going to take care of the rest, and I don't have to fret over it. I
Exactly.
can relax. And
Yeah.
so I think that's really at the essence of it all. And if you have a performance orientation as an individual, just understand it's there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's difficult, but really try to be intentional
Yeah.
about the things that would communicate and produce rest in you.
Yes.
And when I say rest, it looks differently for everybody. I'm not just saying you walk around like a blob.
Yeah.
It's just this idea that I let my mind, I let my attitude, let my
Yeah.
heart go to a place where it doesn't have to be active.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
Right.
just running at 1,000 miles an hour, but I can just say, okay, I'm going to engage some different things.
Yeah.
I'm going to engage the things that produce joy, produce, I don't know, the vacational kind of context for how I'm relating to life.
Yeah. I've heard it said before. It's like rest is just praying and playing.
Yeah, I think that's a good. Good way of analogizing it. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate your insight as always. And we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if this is edifying, if this is something that you feel like you would love for a friend or a family member to hear, be sure to just like, share, subscribe, support the content. And
Awesome.
that's it for this week. See you guys later.
See ya.